Hello, this is Christina Barr, and you're watching Black Tea News. Hello, welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today we're going to be talking about this awful tragedy that happened in Tennessee yesterday. There was a school shooting, and lots of conversation surrounding it because it was a transgender person. It's a woman who identified as a man, which it is unusual, and usually it's white males who do this sort of thing. But I guess she identified as a man, but there's discussions about making sure they use the right pronouns, which it's like there's people dead, so that's kind of not here or there right now. And of course, the conversation is um, about guns, and we can talk about guns, but I think we got to talk about mental health. We really do, and that's a conversation we've been need to have had. And these like today, these they're tough. They're really tough to have these conversations, especially because it just feels there's this massive tragedy and we're just spinning around, going down a drain, um, with no real solutions, it seems. Everyone has their ideologies and things that they want to get out and things that they want to say. But I think, honestly, we don't address real issues because so many people want to harp to different gun control stuff that won't actually solve issues and problems. So um, that's going to be the main focus of the day, talking about hot takes that are bad, media's response, what happened, mental health of the country, etc. There is a story that I would also like to get to if there's time. I'm not kidding, a Pokemon tournament. Yes, they still have those. And I used to collect when I was younger. Really, really liked Pokemon as a kid. And I guess they still have Go on my phone. I just haven't played in a long time. Not since I went to the Arc in Kentucky. Um, but someone got disqualified for not using the right pronouns, or for not taking pronouns seriously enough. And there's just no place that's safe, and it's so silly. It's just all so ridiculous. We're living in such a ridiculous world today. So, but before we jump into everything, please go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, different articles, different videos, etc. Please check out different merchandise that we have that really does help if you guys want to get anything there, like the I'm not the victim you're looking for. We got the you're not that special shirt. We got the black tea. We also got that you're not that special on a mug, and pro-choice men are sus, all kinds of good stuff you guys can get. Also, March is still reading month. We're still in March, although we're getting toward the end. I got a bunch of books you guys can check out on my website. If you go to Black Tea News and go to the merchandise, there's a banner will take you over to my book website. My book website, though, is ninjadoespublishing.com if you want to go straight there, which I see that you people are, visiting and checking out some of my stuff. So appreciate that. But if you just search my name on Amazon, you guys will be able to find my content. So I have one nonfiction book out right now, though I do have another one coming. Of course, God is blatantly against abortion, that you guys can pre-order right now if you like ebooks. So you guys can check that out. But my other nonfiction book that is out right now, which this is pretty cool. So someone from church said that they were, going to school with someone who's having different anxiety issues and stuff. And so she had texted me one day and was like, where can I pick up your book? She bought it directly off of me. And so I gave her like a link to my website and stuff. And I thought maybe I didn't realize she was talking to someone who's close to her. I didn't know if it was someone online or whatever. So I just gave her the link. And so she had testified in church that the Lord just kind of told her to give her the book. So she gave her friend her copy of the book. And so she actually brought her friend to church. And so her friend, thanked me. She's like, "Oh, you're the one who wrote the book." And I said, "Yeah." And so she thanked me because she was dealing with a lot of anxiety and other sorts of things. So she said it was really, really helping her. So that was really cool to hear. It was really cool to hear. So I wrote Slay Your Fear, How to Overcome a Spirit of Fear during the pandemic because there's so many people saying so many crazy things. And I thought about Yoda's quote when he said fear is a path to the dark side, because I just observed how people were so afraid and panicked because of the pandemic that they really gave themselves permission to just act foolishness, all kinds of different ways toward people, to be cruel and to be petty and to be bullies. So it's not about the pandemic, though it's mentioned, but just how things to help overcome fear in a from a spiritual sort of perspective. So that book is available. All my other books, though, are fiction, and they range from all kinds of different things. So yeah, so go ahead and just check out different stuff that I have if you're a reader, or if you're semi a reader and you're interested in that kind of stuff. It's available on my website. And I do thank you guys for checking that stuff out. If you got kids and they're into chapter books or should be into chapter books, I got, Super Kid too. And I'm really excited about some other stuff that I'll have coming out very soon, besides my abortion book. But I've always got stuff that I'm working on. I love to write. My sister, we'll get to the content soon, but my sister, she sent me a video of Sylvester Stallone. He was talking about his process with writing, and she um, said I guess she had heard something that he said that was like, oh, maybe that I can understand her a little better, because Sylvester Stallone said, when people are writing, like, it's, they have to they're thinking about, they're focused on the next thing, the next scene, their character's doing this, their character's doing that. So you might be like, why aren't they here, why aren't they present? They're like, it's because we're there in the future, like thinking about our stories and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, that's what it's like. I mean, I'm introverted, so I don't like to be around people too much anyway. But yeah, I'm if I'm driving in the car or something, like my sister sometimes it'll just be silent, and she'll be thinking in her head like, oh, I'm not contributing to a conversation right now. She's thinking of, I don't know, something that she could say, so we won't be sitting in silence. I don't know, because she doesn't want me to think she's boring or something. I don't know. So I told her, I said, no, I'm always thinking about like books, or I'm like writing another novel in my head. Like, you don't have to feel like you need to make no, it's like, it's, if the, you're allowed to talk, you can speak, but you don't have to feel like inadequate because we're not having conversation, because I'm, making movies in my head or something. So my mind's always going about that stuff. I really love to write. I'm so passionate about it and my characters, and I wish I could do shadow clone jutsu or something and make a bunch of me, so we could pop out some more books or something faster. But it is what it is. It is what it is. But please check out my stuff. And last thing I'll say before I jump into the news is, if you like what I do here at blacktnews.com, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate. It costs a stream, costs to run my website, do all that good stuff. So make sure that you guys are, if you can contribute, have not because you ask not. So I'm asking. So if you can contribute something, God bless you. Appreciate it. If you're watching on Facebook, you can do stars. If you're watching on YouTube, I do have like super thanks and super chats and stuff. So thank you guys for watching and helping me get monetized. So God bless you. Okay, so I think this news basically exploded sometime probably when we were live yesterday, or at least prepping for it. But after I got off air, I left and I got in the car and I turned on the radio and I was listening to K-Love, and which a lot of people don't like K-Love because they think it's too positive, or I don't know. I like K-Love, so or maybe it's just a type of music. I don't know. I like K-Love. So they were talking about the tragedy in Tennessee, and I was like, oh shoot, what happened in Tennessee? So looked it up. Of course, there was a shooting that happened at a Christian school, and there were three children who died. One of them was a pastor's daughter. The looked like it was the family's only girl, and it's I mean it that's just tough for everybody. And then there are three staff members who were killed as well. And Danny Goki was talking about different things. Danny Goki was on American Idol on the season when Chris Allen won. Chris Allen and Adam Lambert was second place. Danny Goki was the third place finisher, and Danny Goki left after American Idol. He did country for like a blip of time, but since then he just got into gospel, which he should have just been did. But he's got some good songs and stuff. But and seems to be like for real saved, at least from what I see on social. So anyway, they were talking about different things they're doing to help the community and help the people down there, and asking other people to help, and people were coming together to pray, and that different people were calling in. And that night I heard a woman call in, was talking about we need to pray not just for the families and the victims, but also the family of the person who committed the shooting, because they lost a child too. And so many people are going to be talking about their child, and it's just going to be really difficult for that family. And I'm like, the compassion is just off the charts. I didn't listen to um I about maybe more than a year ago, I was just listening to basically just news stuff when I get in the car or something. And then my sister borrowed the car one day, and she had it on K-Love. And since then, I just basically haven't turned it off. So I'm glad that I've injected that bit of positive energy into my life, because there's just so much darkness in the world. And it was just a good boost. And then there's so many good songs that just speak to me and really feed me. So the, the to hear something that is a, a light in the darkness in these situations is to hear people come together in prayer or with their condolences or spreading some kind of positivity. Like hearing about the heroes that help in the situation, how communities will come together. At least there's that bit of humanity that you can see after you see the worst in people committing these heinous acts. So at least there's that. So um that was at least uplifting to me. So if you do believe in the power of prayer, um I'm sure these families would very much appreciate what happened. I mean, that they'd appreciate after what happened that you would offer your prayers and your condolences, and help to strengthen those families. And even if you don't, when there's a tragedy, sometimes it's just good to know that people are thinking of you. Um, there was a family member, one of our church members, who passed away not too long ago, and I called. I'm not a caller. As I said, I'm pretty introverted, but I just was like, let me call this woman from our church. And she just said that it meant so much that I called, because she knew I wasn't a caller. um people appreciate that you're thinking of them in these times. So I'm glad at least I didn't notice a lot of mockery of thoughts and prayers. And maybe I missed it, but usually it trends for a while, thoughts and prayers, and people mocking thoughts and prayers. I find that so disgusting when people do that. I had a video that went, I guess it went kind of viral on, I posted it everywhere, but it went kind of viral on Instagram, when Gretchen Whitmer um, basically mocked thoughts and prayers. And I talked about how when my dad was in the hospital, and our thoughts and prayers meant a lot to him, and how we told him that he's a mission, he's a minister, and he's gone all around the world preaching the gospel. And so we told him, like, Dad, all these people from around the world are praying for you, who you've poured into them, that you ministered to them. Now they're praying for you. And so he drew so much strength from that to help him survive. So I don't appreciate when people talk about thoughts and prayers. I mean, beyond just being a person who believes in the power of prayer, but that was an instance where even if you don't believe in the supernatural, again, people connecting that in that kind of way um save someone's life. So yeah, you can let people know that you just that you care, um that you're thinking about them. My sister asked all what I was going to say yesterday when we were eating dinner. I was like, I don't know. I don't know. But I will say I saw the body footage, the camera footage of the police officers who went in and saved these kids, and it was just phenomenal. Like how quick they went in and shot everything down, how fearless and bold they were, which is refreshing after the Uvalde situation. Uvalde was just disgusting. How they they let those kids die. They just stood around or said they're too scared to go in or whatever. I When we'd have conversations about guns and what can we do, and people are like, we need to arm the teachers. At first, I was a person who was like, I don't know about that because like if that's the big solution, all it takes is that failing to people be like, now we need to get rid of the guns because you guys tried this and now someone's dangers happen, etc. So it made me the idea made me uncomfortable. And not all your teachers are like all there. Like I've had teachers who've had like but I guess they weren't my teacher, but I've had some teachers I wouldn't trust with guns, but not in the classroom definitely. But there at our school a teacher had a nervous breakdown. So I just was uncomfortable with the idea. And so after Uvalde happened though, I was like, well, I did some more research and some more reading, and then I found out there are teachers who are armed. And so it was more common than what I thought. But what really changed my mind is the fact that they didn't move in. The people who were supposed to protect them did not move in the way that they should have. They did everything wrong. And I'm not saying that the teachers are obligated, because some people are like, oh, you want these teachers to die for your kids. And I'm like, if you want to admit that you wouldn't do that or stick up for the kids if you had the firearm, I think if that's what you want to admit, that's what you want to admit to. I'm not saying you have to die for the kids, but to say I ain't dying for your kids, I just think that's a weird take. To throw out there, especially when these parents entrust the safety of their kids to you. So if that's what you want to go with, that's what you want to go with. But mostly I'm like, these people have the right to defend themselves, and they're in a situation where they're pinned down and they're defenseless and no one's coming to save them. So after that I was like, you know what, I don't know if it's fair. It's not fair for them to be sitting ducks, I guess. Was my thought process. But then you looked more into that case with the Uvalde situation, and that person was crazy. And there were so many tells, and there were things that people could have reported that could have ended that. And I mean, the kid was crazy. I mean, he had like a bag full of dead cats, and he was abusive to women, and all kinds of warning signs that red flags or whatever that people missed, and that tragedy happened. So with this situation, you got someone who was I don't want to flag words on YouTube, but they were depressed and they wanted to unalive themselves. And actually, the T Post Millennial and some local news is reporting that the shooter, who was a woman who identified as a man, so they're transgender, um, wrote a post to their friend saying that they were going to unalive themselves. And their friend tried to encourage them and say, no, God has a plan for you. There's more for your life. Don't do this. Um, and she's like, no, I want to die. And but she wrote to her friend. So basically, this post I made on here about you, that was basically a unaliving note. I'm planning to die today. This is not a joke. You'll probably hear about me on the news after I die. This is my goodbye post. I love you. See you again in another life. And they said, Audrey, you have so much more life to live. I pray God keeps you and covers you. And they said, I know I don't want to live. I'm so sorry. I'm not trying to upset you or get attention. I just need to die. I wanted to tell you first because you are the most beautiful person I've ever seen and known all my life. So then her friend contacted the suicide of Ariana Patton. After she read the messages, she tried to reach out to I believe the suicide hotline, and they, contacted the police. But all this happened very close to, I think, when everything kind of happened. So she tried. So at least she tried to stop it. Some people don't even do that. So at least she tried. What a terrible thing to I pray that she doesn't carry too much grief, because she did try. But I mean, people will wonder if there's anything else that they could have done. You know, so she called suicide. I didn't mean to say the word, the unalive hotline at 10:08 a.m. and shared with others that. And the report notes that Patton apparently called the Nashville Davidson County Sheriff's Office at 10:13, making them aware of the situation. Um, Patton went on, I called the Nashville's non-emergency line at 10:14 a.m. and was on hold for nearly 7 minutes before speaking with someone who said that they would send an officer to my home. An officer did not come into my home until 3:29. Jeez. Patton said she wanted to come forward about this circumstance because she believed more urgency should have happened when she reached out to the officials for help. So that's not great. After phone calls from friends and Audrey's name was released as the shooters at Covenant Nashville School, I learned that Audrey was a shooter and that she had reached out to me prior to the shooting, Patton added. So that is not good. What a terrible thing. What a terrible thing. So there's some hot, bad takes going on in the media about this. So we had some folks who wanted to make sure the pronouns were so we had the New York Times was like, oh, just uh you had to go on and correct the record, and USA Today, had to make sure that they got the pronouns and stuff right too. So people are ripping on them. Um then there was this post. By the way, they took this. Washington Post took this down. GOP congressman from Nashville district heartbroken by shooting. A 2021 photo shows his family with firearms. So, a 2021 photo. We're in the year 2023. So, this wasn't even the last Christmas, but they, dug up and found that and wrote an article about this, headline, an article. So there's some kids who have died, some staff who have died, and he did not kill them. His family did not do that. And they had the goal to write that headline. And not just, it's not a post from a person at the Post. They actually wrote an article. So I wonder, are there any sort of standards? I don't understand how, and they're not the only ones who wrote an article like Insider and other folks. Like, I have Google and stuff, you can find articles relating to that. So it's freaking weird, guys. It's not appropriate. There's also I think that's, someone posted this, said Republicans are quick to say everyone has mental disorder when pics like this show exactly who has the mental disorders. And so, that's the family pick. But I'm like, people liking guns, having fun with guns or whatever is not a mental illness, and they did not murder anyone. So there's that. It's not about them. Really not about them. And there were some people who were saying like it is weird how much people love guns, etc., and the gun culture in America. Um, if people go out and they people like different things. People like different things. So we're not big on guns or anything. It's something that I want to get bit better at and stuff myself, and been to the range and stuff but there's people who I grew up with kids who their family would go hunting and that's the food that they would eat, that they would hunt. It's there's people in my state who love hunting, and there's that's a part of their lives. There's people who do shooting professionally for sports, who just enjoy it as an activity, as an extracurricular activity. And if people can like fantasy football, if people can like other sort of sports, if people can like, you know, not not everyone has Thor's hammer and Captain America's shield. That was like our family's thing, and thousands of comic books, and and you're like, are you gonna actually compare the things? Guns aren't hurting anyone unless you aim it and you shoot it at someone. If America, there's some people in this country who are nutty or violent and they do bad things with guns, but there's so many guns in circulation. If we had like a dire gun problem, you would believe me, you'd know, because there's a lot of guns out here in America everywhere, and people who have multiple guns, more guns than they have kids. There's a lot of guns out here. So if families, especially GOP families who want to be like, we're pro Second Amendment, and they have a Christmas card and they're posing with their guns and everybody knows how to shoot and that's just part of their culture, you can think it's weird. You can be like afraid of the firearms and all that stuff, but that's just how they are, and you do things differently. It's just a cultural thing. It's just a cultural thing. Like people will be concerned or whatever about people walking around with guns. If you go to like a Republican rally or something, like everybody's got guns. If you go to like an event, everybody's got guns. That's like the safest place in the world, because I know something pops off, that person is gonna be dead very soon. We have fundraisers at gun ranges. As a matter of fact, my sister wanted me to take her to one early this month, I think, but I was busy that day, so we didn't end up going. So and it's not often that a family member like reaches out and they're like, "Hey, I want to go to this thing." Because there's events that can be fun. A lot of them are boring, especially if you don't know the local players and you don't hobnob and all that kind of stuff. But she was like, she found it and said, "I want to go to this," because it was at a gun range. So I went with two of my sisters at a gun range, and they I think they both shot better than I did, but and they really were happy about that. But if it's not you, it's not you. But it doesn't make you crazy just because you like guns, and they're not the ones who committed this heinous act. So trying to make it so blatantly partisan and be like, oh, it's their fault because 2 years ago their family Christmas, they had a photo. It's just a total partisan, blatantly partisan distraction. Blatantly partisan distraction. Let's see if we got some more bad takes on here. I got some video bad takes to pop up, but oh gosh, we got Chastain Buttigieg, because Fox News was talking about how there's a side door open and people have to stop leaving side door opens or whatever, or at least they heard there's a side door open. They weren't sure. And he said, it's the guns. Okay, we'll ban the drag queens. No, it's the guns. Okay, we'll make sure to lock the doors. So it's the people who use the guns People who use the guns. See, when people on the right are like, people on the left want to ban our guns and they think it's crazy talk, they remember in situations when there's some tragedy or something, blame our solution is to get rid of the guns, or the problem is the guns. So why wouldn't the solution be to get rid of the guns? You know? And they'll say, well, we just want to get rid of assault weapons. Like, what the heck is that? What the heck is that? What the heck is an assault weapon? Because a lot of people think that AR stands for assault rifle. That's not true. That's not true. So there's Steven Crowder has one video where he had a tent out and he was like, had a petition for like the kind of guns that people should ban. And so a lot of people pointed to, like, if they were all black, they're like, okay, yeah, these look like, yeah, these are the ones that we need to get rid of. And if they had like wood on them, it could have been like the same kind of, you know, ammo and all kinds of other different stuff. But it had wood on it, so it looked less scary. So like, okay, well, these are okay, but these over here should be banned. So there's just a lot of people who are understandably concerned about guns or might be afraid of guns. Colin Noor, I think is his name. He's a big like AR. I'm not used to be with the NRA doing stuff, but he's not with them anymore. But he used to be really afraid of guns, and then he just became acquainted with guns, and he just ended up loving guns. He makes a lot of good content about the Second Amendment. But I understand people having, you know, fears about guns. If you use, like, you have to get used to them, and you have to get used to people shooting them. You go to range and other stuff like that. Like that, you have to learn to overcome those sort of anxieties and stuff. And you're not around them, you know, you're just not accustomed. But there are people who will say stuff and don't know anything about the firearms at all. That'll want blanket sort of things that they'll say to get rid of or whatever. Like people will say that we need background checks, and it's like, bro, we have background checks. So like, well, we need universal background checks. I'm like, well, how are you going to enforce a universal background check? You can't. How are you going to do that without some kind of registry? Because they'll say that people want more they'll want gun reform. That's what they'll say. But when you ask people, well, are you willing to give up more of your liberties and, you know, have to register all your firearms and stuff that you have, then people are like, oh no, that doesn't sound like a great idea. So you can ask different kind of questions to get, you know, kind of rig the sort of polling that you'll get based on whatever questions that you ask. There's an art form to it. So anyway, Randy Rightguard from the teachers unions was talking about firearms and said some, you know, compared to other countries like Australia and so on. And when people hear stuff like that, their ears start itching and perking up because it sounds like you're coming for the guns.
An epidemic that our great nation must solve. And how many lives will be shattered before we have the courage to do what Scotland did, what Australia did, what New Zealand did, what other great democracies do? We must solve this epidemic. And that's up to us.
So when you start invoking stuff like Australia had a mandatory gun buyback. And so Hillary Clinton, when she was on the campaign trail, she mentioned something about, you know, people asked her about doing what was done in Australia. And so when I heard that, my ears perked up, and I added it to a list of 50 reasons not to vote for Hillary Clinton. If you saw that video, by the way, it was pretty viral. I made that during 2016. There's a video, 50 reasons why not to vote for Hillary Clinton. It started like, why aren't I 50 points ahead? And then there's just dramatic music like, da-da-da-da. And then it's like, here's 50 reasons, and it lists 50 different reasons. So I made that when I was at the Michigan Republican Party. Kat Timpf, my sister, talked to her, you know, from Fox News. And so she mentioned, you know, that video. She's like, your sister made that? And I'm like, yeah, it was me. So probably did quite a bit to help us actually push over and help win those votes in Michigan. Actually, so yeah, that was a cool job. When I did all that stuff. So when she said that buyback, I'm like, okay. Well, she mentioned Australia, but that's what they did. They did a mandatory buyback. So when you do mandatory buybacks, we're just because you give people money, there's still the word mandatory, and you're like, you're still trying to infringe our liberties, bruh? It's just the mandatory thing, makes a difference with the buybacks. So so people are like, oh, because I saw someone post that video on Twitter, and they labeled it as she wants to, is talking about getting rid of guns. And people in the comments like, no, you're lying. She's talking about having the courage to do something, and they want to ban assault weapons. And as someone noted in the comments, like, what does that mean? Everything is an assault weapon. If you use something to assault someone, it's an assault weapon. And you get rid of guns, and you'll still have knives. In the UK, they had knife problems, and they had to start getting rid of the knives, and then they had people throwing acid on folks. Like at one point, I'm like, that sounds messed up over there. Always wanted to go hop over there, and I don't know, probably because I practice British accents and stuff. I'm like, y'all throwing acid on people? I don't know about that, bro. I don't know about that. So people always find another way to hurt people. But the question is, if you disarm all these people, how will they protect themselves? Because it is tragic when someone loses their lives to firearms, but far more people, and I want to say it was anywhere from like 500,000 to 1,000,000 people. It could have been more, and I'm sorry, I'm ballparking, but there was a study that I think the Obama administration like looked into or something, or at least maybe the results were released under them. They looked at like defensive firearm and potential life saves, and it's a big number. It's like, I guess there's not a way that you can know to nail it down, but even like the moderate estimates will be much more than people who lose their lives. So as tragic as what happened in Uvalde, there was a man who was, it was an off-duty cop who was getting his hair done at a barber shop, and he took a shotgun, and then he went into the scene and saved the day. I mean, there are good guys with gun scenarios that happen all the time, or just in their daily lives, and or times when you don't have to shoot, but because you have the firearm, you are protected. And if you're a woman, I don't know how many videos people like look online or just see of like men attacking women in the streets. And man, there was a story about a dude who like slammed a woman on the ground, and now she's paralyzed. Just crazy stuff that people are doing. And if a man like attacks women, women, they're much stronger, and that brings me no pleasure to say. It brings me no pleasure to say, but there is a physical advantage that men just have. But a firearm is an equalizer. And when I was, being taught to shoot and stuff, they said women are just better naturally than men. I don't know how true that is, but that's what I was told. and people around were just like, yeah, they seem to be more of a natural at it. But I don't know. But that is a way to help keep yourself safe, because you cannot stop every crazy person from committing some kind of act of violence and aggression upon you. But it doesn't make sense that you're going to have all these laws that you want to enact, and maybe mandatory buybacks or whatever, and bans, and you'll have people who follow the law who will follow the law, but then you'll have people who obviously don't, who may get guns, make guns, get illegal guns, whatever, and then you have people who can't defend themselves. Why should we put up with that? Why should we allow that? And again, it's good to be able to defend yourself, period. But the Second Amendment is also so we can defend ourselves against a tyrannical government. So we're always still thinking about what could happen down the line. And I don't want to take a risk with these crazy people, because you never know how radical someone might get into an office eventually and where we might go as a nation. So it's just that check, you're putting the government in check. Like, you can try it, but we're gonna fight back. And if they say, well, they have all these other weapons, okay, well, we that doesn't mean that we won't. The massive amount of guns that are out there and the people who defend themselves, that's still, pretty awesome firepower. And that really doesn't motivate me to give up guns if you just say that we're that outnumbered by the government if they want to mow us down like dogs. So not really making a good case. So um there's people coming for firearms and saying it's a gun problem, we need to do more, etc. But every time something like happens, you have people who talk about firearms, and you have people on the right who again, what does it matter if people aren't going to enforce the laws on the books? If you have, woke DAs, prosecutors, or whoever who will not enforce these charges when people are carrying guns illegally or whatever, if you're just going to let them back on the street to terrorize other folks, and then if you want to get rid of guns or whatnot, you have people who can't defend themselves with firearms because they're the good people who gave it up or whatever, but you have all these other people who are criminals, so they break the law, and you lock them up and you don't do anything to them. Not long term. They're just back out on the streets. What's the point? What's the point? And I'll mention this, and I'll keep mentioning this. The president lied on an ATF form to obtain a firearm. That's not a conspiracy theory. That is the fact. That is a fact. That's something that we know. So every time folks on the left, particularly the president, who will get up and talk about firearms, I'm like, I don't want to hear what you have to say if you don't care about actually enforcing the rules themselves. Because if you're not going to actually do something to criminals who commit crimes, they don't like going after criminals and locking them up, etc. There's people who want to abolish not just police, but want to abolish prisons. Okay, so if we aren't going to take criminal activity seriously, why the heck should people give up their firearms or give an inch about giving up their firearms? They shouldn't. They shouldn't. Absolutely shouldn't. So the other conversation that people have or should have is about mental health. And some people are bringing up the fact that this person is transgender, and I saw some folks on the left who are like, why is it that when other folks do something, it's about, X, Y, and Z, but now they're trying to say it's about they said, why is in other situations we don't want to blame the guns, we want to say it's about mental health, and now we want to say it's about the gender. And this is Savvy is just like, because their gender is like their mental health condition, like dysphoria, like, and a lot of people who will diagnose with transgenderism, maybe they are transgender, maybe they're not, but they have other underlining health conditions, whether it's anxiety, depression, thoughts of unaliving themselves. I think about how often you cannot say that there's not some kind of issue with mental illness. Yet every time when someone doesn't want to affirm, you're like, these people are going to off themselves. It's the math ain't mathin'. We can have serious conversation about this, or we ought to. At least we ought to. But no one wants to have these conversations. People, think they'll get canceled or whatever, and it's probably true in most cases. But we're kneecapping ourselves, and we're not able to have genuine conversations about this stuff. So this is a person who was not well. Obviously, they did what they did. They wanted to end their lives, and they decided to take it out on other people. And gosh, there's so many takes of like blame of, oh, they attacked the schools, the Christians are tyrannical with their ideology. But I've seen quite a few like they deserve it takes that are really disgusting. Charlie Kirk shared this video. Maybe it was Liv of TikTok who originally posted it, but I saw him share it, so I'll go ahead and play this crazy one.
I wonder if the parents of the victims of the Nashville shooting today would still have their children if these trans bills in Tennessee were never a thing. I'm not a parent, but if I were, I'd be real mad at the government. I'd be real mad at the government.
So, I can't believe some stuff that people put on the internet, particularly on TikTok. I mean, there's some vile, crazy stuff on there, and she's old enough to know better than to say something that out of pocket. So, normally when there's such a terrible take, I'm like, this person is like 15 to 20, between the ages of 15 to 23. You by the time they're 23, maybe they got a little more sense, but I can usually guess it. Like, oh, this person's 18, this person's 17, whatever. I don't know. She could be early 20s. I don't know. I don't know how well she's aging or not aging. But one time I someone left such a dumb comment reply to me, and I just replied back to them, and I'm like, parents, y'all need to watch what people say on TikTok, because I promise you your child is embarrassing you. Now I don't know where her parents are at. 'Cause she's old enough to know better. But why say this crazy stuff that is just embarrassing yourself? What an awful thing to say. An awful thing to say. There's a person responsible for what happened, and they're dead. The police, promptly went in and shot them, and it's their fault. But to blame the government, that just gives the vibes of they had it coming, like, Cell Block Tango song, because they have all these bills. And there has been like different advocacy for violence out there in that community, but there's so many people who just want to live their lives and do transition, and they just want to do it because that's the way that they feel that it's going to, tone down the dysphoria, and they're just kind of trying to live their lives. And not everyone is on the super crazy oppress all people, submit, or be bludgeoned train. But man, there's some wackadoodles out there. There's some wacky people out there saying some really crazy, heinous stuff. And some people are asking, how much testosterone was she on? And people are pushing back against it. But I've heard women who are on testosterone talking about how it changes their mood. It makes them more aggressive. And testosterone, it does have effects even on men. Like when they have to take a testosterone shot, maybe it'll make them a little more aggressive or frisky or whatever. And but there are women who will say within their, like, whether they're transitioning or detransitioning, they'll say the testosterone definitely made them act differently. Whether they're in both counts of being more hypersexual or being more aggressive. So she's on that. I don't know what other kind of drugs. It's a conversation worth having if people are talking about mental health. And people are trying to say, oh, but it doesn't happen that often. Like, it's usually, I said at the top of the hour, it's usually, white men who do it, but mostly people who are, if you do something like that, you're not well in the head. So if it is something that can really affect your behavior, isn't it just worth putting out there as, FYI warning? I think so. But here's the larger thing. I may have to write about this sometime because I feel like my words are a bit more eloquent when I pin them to paper. I've said this before, though. I don't think we live in a world that wants our world to be healthy. I don't. Everyone lies. Everyone goes so extreme with their ideologies. It's always so exaggerated. Like, if you're like, I don't affirm your pronouns, or like, you don't think I exist, you're trying to wipe me out, like, just really hysterical, jump to the worst sort of thing. Like, oh, I don't support, universal health care. Then you got commercials of Paul Ryan, throwing grandmas over cliffs. And the person who attacked, Rand Paul and the other Republicans, who was, the Bernie supporter bro or whatever, he was shooting at them saying this is for healthcare. But there's all this rhetoric around of how Republicans are killing people because of healthcare. There's all this like exaggerated language to make people so hyper aggressive and to turn the population against one another, that we're always fighting. And and that helps people get into office, that helps boost ratings, that helps boost clicks. But it's not good for people's mental health, and it's not good how checked in everyone is into politics nowadays. Like, it used to be something that so many people in the population weren't so in tune with. People make it their lives. Like, my sister tried to tell people, like, during, like, 2016 and so on. I'm like, she's like, don't break your family relationships with people over this stuff. Like, she's like, look at Bush and Obama and them. She's like, these people are friends. Like, there's no point in destroying your relationships with people. Now Trump is a total outsider or whatever, but it doesn't make sense how focused people would be. Like, oh, you voted for Trump, let me, like, X you out of my life. I can't speak to you anymore. I saw a video the other day of someone who said that the contractor came over to fix something in their house and they had a Trump sticker on their clipboard, so they kicked them out. Like, they're there for a service. Like, you couldn't be like in and out even for a service. People are not well today, and they don't want them to be. Like, there's never any accountability. There's always someone else to blame. And when you go to like therapy or something and someone wants to help you, they help you process your feelings. They ask you, like, how does that make you feel, or what. You try to, find some kind of ownership with yourself and how you react to the world. But that's not what we do. You have some kind of issue in your life. Oh, it's because of systemic racism. You can't find the right shampoo when you go to the hotel because of systemic racism. I'm not joking. That was a thing. Everything is some kind of ism or system or something. There's no accountability. There's no, like, hey, did you, maybe there's economic issues going on in your community because you had a kid out of wedlock and you got 5 baby dad. There's all kinds of different reasons, but it's never anyone's fault. If people don't validate your feelings, it's an attack on you personally. It's crazy. No, seriously, I don't think people want anyone to be well today. And people, because everyone's basically attracted to politics nowadays, you'll have crazy people who will latch on. And I know crazy is not a PC word, but it's whatever. We're just ranting now. They'll latch on to this stuff in these fringe areas, and then stuff will happen, and then they'll feel that they will go out and act, or they want to drive the conversation somewhere, and then they'll live in infamy. I don't think I've said the shooter's name, or maybe I said in the article, I'm not sure, but I started to show the picture. I'm like, I don't really want to show the picture, but everyone's showing the picture and blasting around. We know that, lend some kind of effect to their psyche of making more shooters. We've had guns in this country for a very long time, but the situations that we're having now, there's other problems at work here. And I think a lot of it has to do with we just have no sort of value for life at all. For like, people get mad when you say all lives matter, and people with Black Lives Matter is like, no, all lives matter, and like, oh, you're racist because you said just ridiculous stuff. But I would respond, I'm like, I would say all lives matter, but people don't even understand that their own life matters. You know, working on this abortion book, there's a section where I talk about, of course, I think it's wrong to, or it is wrong. I won't say I think it is wrong to take the life of the unborn, not just because you're robbing them of life, but I also make the case that life itself is intrinsically valuable, not just that person who's living as a human being, but life itself. And we need to have more reverence for it, but we don't have reverence for each other's lives, and we don't have reverence for our own lives today. Or because if we did, you wouldn't see people make so many crazy mistakes that would land them in jail forever, over dumb robbing stuff in stores, or random assaults in the street, or these kids attacking each other in school and putting on a camera for what? For clicks and likes. And maybe you're going to go to juvie now, or maybe not because they don't prosecute anyone, but you're just going to be a bigger problem because no one ever disciplined you. We're just not in a good place. We're really not in a good place. And to the all things exaggerated, especially with the transgender stuff, people say, hey, we don't think that you should use chemical castration drugs on kids, which Lupron, that it's a fact that has been used for chemical castration, that this stuff can make people go, lose their fertility. How can a child possibly be like, oh yeah, let's, use this stuff so my privates and stuff won't properly develop. And yeah, when I'm 50, when I'm, a little older, we can chop off my breast or whatever. And they can't possibly truly understand the repercussions of that when they start on that journey as an 11 or 12-year-old, or how, even if you start transitioning them earlier, you wouldn't like chemically castrate them until they like during the puberty age, I guess, but socially people will start earlier and just have them on this path, on this trajectory where they'll probably never get off. They can't possibly understand the repercussions of that. But so if you're like, people should really wait till they're older, it's an attack and you're trying to eradicate these people and you don't want them to exist, and etc. It's so exaggerated, and they're like, there's all these violence against them, and it's like, is that true? Or if there's violence, is it against this group of people, or is it that a lot of these people will go and be sex workers, or they'll be in some kind of domestic situation with someone they've been with, and then which isn't good, but it's a different sort of mindset versus like these people put themselves in dangerous situations versus people are actually like on the hunt for these people. So the different narratives that people have surrounding the stuff, it's making people nuts. It's making people unwell. And I don't think anyone serious really wants to undo the damage, especially not on the left. Especially not on the left. So, in a sane world, we could say that you cannot hold these two thoughts at the same time. You cannot be like, hey, there's nothing wrong with their mental health, but at the same time say all these people are going to unalive themselves if you will not let them do X, Y, and Z, or if you do not affirm them. Those things cannot exist at the same time. And I think most people, if they stopped and just thought about that for 2 seconds, they could agree. But no one wants to acknowledge it because of ideology, because of politics, because of money, because of you want to react to the right wing outrage culture, so you're just going to push back as hard as you can. And I don't know the answer here, guys, because I see a really big problem just in general in life how we're operating our nation, how we're communicating with each other, how we consume our news, how we consume our entertainment. I see a really big problem here, but I don't see any push to want to change that. So I think we'll continue being aggressive and lashing out and stuff. Is it also a problem? And we're not gonna get to the Pokemon thing today. When people talk about the possibility, or they'll talk about it as if it's inevitability that you're driving people to do it because you won't affirm them, whatever, with people taking their lives. Are you normalizing it to a degree if that's what you are putting out there in the atmosphere, as if you're almost giving permission, as if it's just a normal pathway if you don't comply? Like, we should be doing everything to try to help people feel like that's a bad thing to do to yourself, not be like, oh, we gotta make sure we're not, that we use the pronouns or whatever, so people won't do that, because there'll always be people who won't do that. Or if that's something that's so fragile that can push someone over the edge, isn't there just going to be another thing that's going to push them over the edge? Like, we have to try to figure out how to unwind from that point and get to the root of why they feel that sort of depression, get to the root of that dysphoria and try to address it. But people who feel that way, we need to really push it. That's not the way to go. That is an immoral way to go. That it is a punk move. Like, not that is just an inevitable thing that just happens. But those aren't the conversations that we have. So I don't have an answer other than Jesus, and this is a political show. So so when I leave, I'm gonna put on some Kayla. I don't have an answer politically, because at least right now, thinking out loud, I mean, there's steps we can take and things we can say, and of course, we have these conversations so other people will start to think, and we continue having conversations and start pushing it back against the machine, I guess. But as far as, there's so many conversations about this stuff, but as far as meaningful solutions that I really see, like, politically, I don't see it. So that's concerning. But as a religious person, I'm praying for revival, because I don't know what else to do, guys. I don't know what else to do. We just live in a crazy world. But anyway, please pray for the families today that had that massive tragedy. 9-year-olds. I mean, there were 3 adults, 3 children who were killed. There's some violent, weird post online. I hope people report different stuff, that people will stop any sort of content that sounds like an excuse, any sort of content that is a validation for what happened. There was a statement by some kind of trans network that was like, there's 2 victims here, and they went on, at least they did talk about the kids who were and the adults who were killed, but they went on about how trans people face all these different sort of things, and it kind of sounded like they're just like, well, just try to understand from their perspective, or I don't know. Not saying that the shooting was justified, but it just wasn't a good statement. They could have just said nothing. They could have really just said nothing. But it's a tragedy. But if we don't tone down our language and ground ourselves into reality, I don't think our country's gonna get to a better pathway forward. But it's one of the reasons why I'm here, I guess. There's a lot of comments today, but I know you guys are having conversations in there. Someone mentioned that they liked when I squint because I gotta look like this to because I'm kind of far from my screen. Um, but I thank you for watching today as I'm trying to process and think about all this stuff that's happening today. And yesterday, I hate. I mean, everybody hates stuff like this. Everybody hates when these things happen. But what I really hate is I guess all the takes, all the political scoring and dunking, and when there's just a lot of real people involved. And but you'll hear all this stuff about the firearms, and people will say solutions that won't solve problems, or they'll have plans, and they'll have plans that you know again won't stop criminals, but will hurt people's actual rights and freedoms and liberties and stuff, which will lead to but then they don't want to stop actual criminals. And we don't have to go through that rabbit hole again, but it's just so unhelpful. And so many things that don't make sense. um anyway, let's let's wrap it up. Thank you guys for joining me today. Please go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, different articles, different videos. Please check out different articles because I'm going to write something that I think will sound more articulate than what I put out today. But I'm just like ripping off the top of my head, processing feelings and emotions. And, these things are really tough when they happen. So please check out different stuff on my website. If you like what I do, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com. It costs to stream, costs to run my website, all the good stuff. So if you would like to support in that kind of way, God bless you. Really do appreciate it. You haven't, because you asked not. So I'm asking if you can, whether it's $10, $20, $50, whatever you can do. I really do appreciate it. Please check out different merch on my website, like the pro-choice men are sus. Sus is short for suspect, because if you follow me for any little amount of time, you guys know I'm super pro-life, and some pro-choice men have been like just totally awful. Said the most heinous things, but mostly I made it because there's people say no uterus, no opinion, but they don't actually mean that. They just mean they don't want pro-life men to say anything. But if you're pro-choice and you're a man, you can say whatever the heck that you want, and it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. And we also got, if you're from Canada, got the Free Canada stuff, and I made during the trucker situation. So, got, black tea mugs, etc. So check out different content on the website. Make sure that you guys are also dropping your email on the website as well. So you can stay up with updates if there's, some good articles that come out, or, events that I might post or something, then I might send out an email. If there's an event, like, I don't know, I can't post on something on YouTube. And how else will you know? Because I can't post if you're on some kind of strike or something. You can't do anything for like a week. So that hasn't happened in a long time. But just make sure that you guys sign up on the website for different stuff. So God bless you. I will see you guys tomorrow. Thank you guys for watching live and your comments, and thank you guys to everyone who watches it back.